Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and humanoids of all ages, and welcome back to The Giant, the Hobbit, and the Guy Book to Nowhere. And today we are talking about sustainable housing, living, and travelling in the modern day. So, a very clear subject, broadcast matter. I'm here by myself today. I am running the podcast by myself. My other co-host, she's busy today. She's unable to attend. But hopefully I will be enough to entertain you guys for a bit longer. And again, apologies about being a bit late today. I got a bit confused about the time. I lost a few hours, so it's okay. So we're all here. It's all going good. And without further ado, I think we should get started. Just make sure everything's running right. Yep, looks like it's going good. So to start with, we've got sustainable housing. Interesting topic. I currently live, as you can tell, this is a caravan living in the heart of the city. I live in Bristol city centre, not city centre, I live a couple miles out, but I did live in Bristol city centre, where there is a lot of projects going on now for different, not for different ways of living, but for student flats, which isn't very sustainable. Other projects going on, building projects, infringing. In the UK, there's infringings happening in the green belts in the UK. The government are pushing back because they need more space to build more houses, to house more people, because a population grows, they need more space. And there are very few other ways to living unless you live in a house. I mean, it's very difficult to find other ways to live and to survive in a country such as the UK, which puts a very high value on homeowners. You know, you get your mortgage, you get your house, you have a good job, you do the list, and you got the job. Happy days. So something like me, I live on a legal yard, so it is a yard that we pay rent on. We get electricity, internet, as I can do this podcast. We've got all of our amenities, and we share it between us. There's about 20 people living in this yard. We've got toilet, showers, washing machines. We've got everything we need to basically live. And we all live in our own vehicle or our own home. So we're separate, but we're a community, which works out really great, because if you're sharing a house, if you're living with other people, you got to get along with other people. Otherwise, it sucks. Because if you get someone who you don't get along with, you're not having a good time with, you got to deal with them. And that's the only way. Otherwise, you've got to move out. Or they've got to move out. Or something's got to happen. Something's got to change. So finding other ways to live in, which is, like, I talk to pretty much most people that I see each day. So I have a chat with them. I have a chat with them for a bit. Half an hour. They have a chat with me. You know, it's just really friendly, really lovely sort of thing. This has taken a lot of time. But if I don't want to see anyone, I can just be sat in here, put all the curtains down, just be like, just by myself. And you know, it's a lovely way of doing things, because it means that you're not forced to interact with people all the time. So when you're cooking food, you don't have to be there and someone else comes in there doing other stuff as well, and they're getting up in your grill sort of thing. You can just kind of be in your way cooking. You can invite people around. Hey, do you want to come around for dinner? You know, do you want to hang out for a bit? Cool. And so this is a really interesting way of doing it. Unfortunately, it's in the UK. It's very difficult to, first off, get a legal yard. So if you were to buy land to use as a yard and have people living on it, treating it right, and renting it, it's very difficult. I believe I was talking to someone, I think it took them about 15 years to get accepted onto having the, well, they got the land. You got to apply for planning permission when you want to use the land for certain things. And because of the prejudice against caravan livers or alternative home livers, so we've got motorhomes which have been converted. I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of videos out there on Facebook, YouTube, people who've converted these awesome vehicles like these Mercedes 502s into these beautiful, beautiful living homes sort of thing. And sustainable housing, for me, is when you can live within your means. You're not overusing space, because a lot of people have a lot of space. Like if you've got a house, you've probably got about 8 rooms, and they're probably fairly sized rooms, and it causes you to get more stuff, because if you have an empty room, you're kind of like, I just want to stick something there, I just want something in that room. Whereas if you've got a caravan like this, if I was just stuck all my stuff in here, I would just be up to my head in stuff, and useless things that I wouldn't need to use in this sort of space. Which means I buy a lot less stuff, I consume a lot less, and I live more within my means, because in the end I need my bed to sleep, I need someone to cook, I need someone to keep me warm, so I've got a fireplace, I need a little desk thing to have these computers on. So living within your means is a really interesting thing. It doesn't have to mean that you have to live in a caravan straight off, like go live in a caravan, but you have to look at your space, and if you're getting thoughts I need to fill it with more stuff so I can just have it filled up, that's not sustainable in that sense, because all you're doing is just accumulating more stuff which you're not using. So if you use everything to the max, then I feel that that's more sustainable. Even if you may have a big space, there's more people living there, there's more stuff to do, it makes sense to have certain stuff. But then if you're just going, I just want to fill up, go, then all you're going to end up doing is have a lot of crap which you've taken out of the natural world, processed it, assimilated it, and put it somewhere, and it just sits there, get lots of dust, which I'm sure everyone's got something that's got dust in it because it hasn't been touched for about 5 years. So going back to living on a yard and to it being very difficult, so there are a lot of illegal yards, so people who squat land that isn't being used. Everyone moves onto the caravan, they've got their own solar panels, they've got their own gas, they've got everything set up so they can live, and once they get kicked off, pack it down, and then get the car out and drive off to the new yard, which makes it very difficult, especially in a place like Bristol, because we've had rising house prices in the last, 10, 15 years. I mean, I've been here for 5 years on and off. I could rent 5 years ago reasonably, like $250, $300 a month. Now the same property I'm looking at $500, which for me it's outside my price budget, because I do work, I can work, but if I'm spending 500-600 quid a month, then half or more of my wages is just going into rent, just so I can go to sleep, wake up, and go to work. It's not a very productive life then. Like I said before, I pay $250 here a month for everything, which is wonderful, because it means I have more time to do this, I have more time to engage, I can do other projects, or I can do nothing. You know, I could, if I'm not feeling great, I can just lay off and just do nothing for a month or two, because every month living in a non-property, I could do 2 months here. Which is such a big difference, because if you get people who live in month by month and having to pay all this money and having to just keep forcing themselves to working 40-50 hours a week, they burn out, collapse, everything just goes tumbling down, as I'm sure there will be some people who may view this in the future will have had happen to them, which I'd be really interested to hear. So do come and talk to me about that. So there are a lot of interesting projects with that. So in Bristol we have containers being converted into living properties for homeless people. So they have to, I believe the criteria is there has to be no drinking, no drugs, no smoking in the unit, because of course what they are for is for people who have no home to come in, live, become rehabilitated back into society, be helped, and giving them a hand up, not a handout, as it's a really good phrase, and giving them the ability to get used to and come back to some normality, and they can go off, hopefully find some employment, find some work, start saving up some money, and then they can choose what they want to do with their life. And then what happens then is they'll hopefully move to a building or a place to live, and then another person who's on the streets comes and lives, because we have a massive homeless crisis happening in the UK, where a lot of people who can't afford, or something's happened to them, can't afford living, and so they're out in the streets, they're out trying to find somewhere to crash, they're always trying to find a place. Like I saw a lovely Mercedes van with a lovely handwritten letter on its window. It was just entitled, "Hi, I am a music teacher. I'm living in this van. I go to work, I come back, I live. I'm very clean and very tidy," and it was like it's spotless. There wasn't any trash. I just go, I can't afford to live in a house. The money that I'm earning does not allow me to live in a house, to pay my bills, to feed myself sustainably. So I have decided to move out and move into this van to hopefully find a better way of living. And that's the kind of biggest point, is when you've got someone who's a music teacher, a teacher in the profession, working at schools, cannot afford with their pay coming in to live comfortably or live well enough where they feel they're fine in the house and they have to move into a van. it shows you the disparity between prices rising up in certain areas, which is really demoralizing in some ways, but really good in others. Because if it was taken as a positive, going right, landlords are raising the prices. Okay, there's other initiatives. So our yard, we have a couple of yards around the city. We rent property, we house people in there, and people live off the streets. They're not causing issues, sort of thing. But the only issue is that it's very difficult to get that past the council. They're very much staunch in the way of, you have a house, you live in a house, you pay your council tax, bam, 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 done, and that's it. And they're not very open to other projects of this nature because there is prejudice in the UK, especially to travellers and to people who live the lifestyle that we live, because of rubbish, because of the perceived perception of people who live in caravans, which is very demoralising for me and for people in my way of life, due to the fact that there's very big discriminatory issues against us, sort of thing. Like we're applying for a for a building on a new yard outside of Bristol, and the area that we picked, it is next to a park. It's very lovely. We've been running, well, not me, but Yarlots have been running for about 5 years now, and we've had great results. Like, everyone's really pleased with us, everyone's really happy that we're there. But of course, the residents have this staunch notion that they're these sort of people. They're gonna ruin, and they don't know us. And they don't know us. They don't know the way we live. They don't know what's happening. So they fight very hard against it, with a perceived perception. Not all of them, but a few. And there's loud few that shout out that, you know, we're these sorts of people. We live this sort of way. We don't care about where we're living. You know, we just don't give a crap, basically. Whereas it's totally the opposite. Like, we took our first yard, which was a dumping site, because it had been an old petrol station, and it got cleaned up by the people by the landlords and by the people that he got in to work and clean and tidy it up to make it livable. So this is coming in back to the cinema house. We cleaned up the area to move in to live on it, rather than just being a pristine area which we just lumped all of our stuff on, sort of thing. And we live within our means. Like, we have our showers, we have a washing machine, so we don't overload ourselves. Like, I can't have stuff. You know, I can only have a minimal amount of stuff. Otherwise, my floor, I can't walk in it. You know, which creates this wonderful disparity that I gave away a lot of my stuff recently because I found I was collecting too much of it. So I was like, right, what do I need and what don't I need? Don't need this. You know, it's rubbish. Get rid of it. It's stuff that's ripped, teared, broken. I can't use it. And sorry, I'm just losing my train of thought for a second there, which is really interesting because my way of living, I don't buy very many clothes because I've got enough, because my drawers are full. I don't buy very much many more cooking utensils because I've got everything I need. I've got all the basic supplies to make it livable, enjoyable, and nice. So it's a really interesting way, because if you live in a small space, you get acclimatized after a while to not having too much stuff. Otherwise, you're kind of kicking yourself all the time because you're tripping over yourself. So that's one of the first parts of sustainable living. So caravans, small spaces, because in small spaces you can fit more people. Like, we've got 20 people on a size that, if housing was given, it would block a lot of houses. It could probably house maybe just another 10 more, not even that. I mean, if it was divided into houses, probably give us, I would say, about 6 houses. So you could probably fit about 12 to 15 people on there. Of course, you have to build, you have to get planning permission, but you've got 20 people living on the same size space comfortably and happily in the same size space in smaller spaces on that space. And we're keeping it, we've got a very big open garden in the middle, sort of thing, where we can just walk back and across. It's lovely and grassed. So it's a lovely little area which we've got. And of course, we're all living sustainably within our needs. We're not just gathering lots of stuff. We're not buying lots of stuff. We have what we need, and we need what we have. So that's the first part, which kind of fell into living a bit as well, because we sustainable living. So it's looking at things and weighing up the cost to the benefit ratio, sort of thing. Because if you're buying stuff in the supermarket, or you're buying stuff which you see, how to explain this properly. Sorry, I'm just trying to amalgamate in my head just so I can relay it back to you guys properly. You have to weigh the benefits and cons to it from when you buy it to when you get rid of it. So when you get rid of it, what's happening to the materials which you bought, which you know, if you're buying something in plastic wrap, that plastic wrap is now yours. You own that. That, you know, it's not the supermarkets anymore. It's not the bin companies. That is your belonging at that present time. So what you're using will have a knock-on effect in the future, because when you get rid of that, or what happens to that in the future, it was at one stage yours. So you have to look at things in that way as well. So you have to look at what you're buying, and then you look at it and goes like, I can buy that for £1.50. So say a good instance is 6 apples and Littles. You can buy 6 apples and Littles for about £1.20, £1.50. They come with plastic wrap, which for me I do not like. I'm not a fan. Like, there's issues with plastic, there's issues with rubbish. I mean, if there's way that if I buy it and I use it again and again for quite a period of time, I'm more okay with it. I'm still not happy with it, but I'm more okay with it. Or I went down picking and I picked about 30 apples from apple trees. Of course, this isn't going to be for everyone, because city living, countryside living, it's completely different. But you have to find ways where you don't have to purchase stuff which will have a knock-on effect. So if you're buying something that's like, just buying this just because it's, you know, I can buy it right now, whereas you could talk to you probably have a cooperative, you probably have allotments where people are selling fresh fruit and veg. It's not packed, it's literally straight from the earth. Bam, there it is. You have to look at other ways that it may not be the most convenient at that present point, but in the future, once you get into routine, it's a lot more stable. Whereas, like, if you go to fruit and veg shops, they've got these big boxes. Pretty much, you just pick what you want. I'll have 5 of these. I'll have 10 of those. And none of it's packaged. It's normally in cardboard boxes. You just pick it out and go, yeah, I just want those. And then you walk home and it's just there. And there's so much less at the end, which is belonging to you, which needs to be gotten rid of. Which is great, because there's a lot less responsibility for you to be conscious about that, because you have plastic, you gotta put it in the bin, you gotta put it in the bin, you gotta put it out, you gotta pay the bin men to take it away. So the less rubbish and the less stuff you are sending out after you've gotten it, it's gonna be for the better. I mean, just generally, because you have less to deal with, you've got less smell, you've got less cleaning to do. For me, that's my perception, is if you could get stuff that hasn't got more waste that comes with it, the better. Like, if you could have packaged apples and then just apples that are open, and then they were the same price. This is something I don't understand. It's like, why are they not the same price apples? Because I think there was a wonderful post, was I think it was bananas, or it was some type of fruit, which was like, you can buy 6 for £1, but these open ones, which are the same company, they'll be £1.85 for 6. Even though you've got less material in those open package ones, because you can pick them up, get them to the cashier, they scan them, they weigh them, bam, they're yours. They cost more than your packaged plastic branded bananas, which is totally topsy-turvy in that sense, because you're using more materials for that £1 than you are for those £1.80s. So if someone wants to say in chat, explain why that's going on, please do. Please let me know down in the comments below, because that's something I do question. Is like, when there's more materials being used for what you're selling, surely the price should be higher, because you're using more stuff. There's more processes. There's more, because someone's got to put those bananas in that bag, seal that bag up, put it somewhere, and that's going to be shipped off. And again, I think. So sustainable living, it's finding ways that what you use will have as little knock-on effect as possible, and using what you have to the full extent. So instead of so you've got a set of glasses, you've got a set of cups, mugs, using those ones all the time. So you have 3 mugs. You know, if you get a couple of friends coming over, they have a cup of tea, they have a cup of coffee, and you have 3 mugs, and you use them regularly. Like, use them as much as you possibly can, which means that you don't have to keep buying more, because a lot of people assume that they're going to have like 10, 12 people come in, so they buy 12 sets of cutlery, 12 sets of plates, 12 sets. If this does happen, I will just say this: ask them to bring stuff with them. If you know you're having 12 people over, because generally 12 people is not a surprise, you kind of go, look, guys, bring your plates, bring your mugs, bring your cutlery, because we're having champagne and mugs tonight, okay? Bring them all over with you, and then we can enjoy it, because they're bringing what they have, because of course they don't have 12 either, but they'll have maybe 3 or 4 or 5, and they bring them over. Someone else brings them over. There you go. You don't have to purchase more stuff, because at the end of the day, you're going to have 12 sets of plates and 12 sets of mugs sat there. And I don't know very many people that sort of rotate each plate they use each day. I mean, I don't. I normally use a plate and a bowl. I mean, that's pretty basic for me. You know, it's pretty much the same. So living within your means, and it's also looking at new technology which says this is going to be better. Because, so for instance, we're having the issue with plastic cups, and of course I acknowledge that this is an issue. Any plastic that's going to take a long time to biodegrade and to be got rid of is always an issue. It's the same with cardboard cups, because a lot of them have a lining of plastic which makes them non-biodegradable, which is a big issue. But then also you look at people going, we've got these metal cups. You know, you can sling your stuff in there. They're reusable a lot of the time. Wonderful. How much effort did it take to create those metal cups? It's a question that I've not seen asked yet. I mean, I haven't done much research. That question is being asked, but you've got people having to mine that out first, because it's all done by machinery or humans with machinery. They have to mine. They have to process. That processing will have a lot of waste product to it, because you've got wastewater being used in the manufacturing product. You've got heating up, so you have to either use coal, charcoal, electricity to heat up your metal to melt it down. Then you have to have cast to shape it, package it, sell it. There are a lot of steps, and I'm not saying that it's not a viable option. I'm just saying that you've also got to look at the costs along with it at the time, because you can use it God knows how many times. Like, we're talking thousands to tens of thousands of times before, you know, and unless you drop it or crack it, it's very useful. And even if you drop and crack it, if you're looking to live sustainable, you should learn how to repair things. It's a very fundamental basics of living, is knowing how to repair, because if you know how to repair, you can maintain, and if you can maintain, you can live sustainably, because something which you bought, if you keep it prolonged as long as possible and living, you know, and working well, then you are stopping that from just being chucked and being gone through the process of being put in the tip, someone maybe picking out, someone maybe not picking out, and then being put in a landfill. It's the same, I guess. Yeah. So sorry, I was getting lost there. And in my hand is a lime, by the way, if you are wondering, because I got given some free limes by a good friend of mine. Where were we? So metal cups. So I'm just very interested in the amount of energy and effort that was put into a metal cup to be sold, to be used multiple times, and also if you're using it multiple times, the amount of people that do use it every single time, don't forget it, it does diminish, because a lot of people forget. I mean, we're human, you know. We got 100 million things going on in our life, in our head. It just bypasses us. It just you know, it just dodges out the way, and we're just like, oh yeah, that happened. Oops. It'd be fine. I'll just grab something on the way, sort of thing. Whereas the responsibility gets thrust on the consumer, because the company generally don't want to deal with it. And I think I saw a small article saying, what was it? I think it was The Independent, saying that plastic cups will not save the world, or paper cups or biodegradable cups will not save the world. I agree with it in the sense of it won't save the world, because there are a lot more issues, but it's a good step forwards to waking up your consciousness, to understanding kind of a lot of things are a lot worse than what we think we are, but we turn off our heads to kind of go, nah, it's fine, it's okay, it's you know, I'll deal with it another time. But the issue, well, the benefit that plastic cups and the whole world talking about and non-biodegradable cups is that more and more people's brains will be turned on to the fact going, yeah, that kind of is an issue, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, also this is kind of an issue as well. Also that's an issue. And then the people that with this one issue from this kind of compromise and kind of go, what can I do to benefit? Like, what could I bring with me that I could use, or what could I use, or you know, what could I get, or what could I make to pour this liquid which I want to enjoy? and carrying on about my day and having a great day. You know, how do I find my enjoyment and keep doing what I want to do, but while also benefiting the world? Because a lot of people don't think on that grand scale. Oh, I'm saving the world. Or people do. I'm saving the world. I'm doing a great thing. Woo! Which in a smaller scale sense it is. But then also you got to look at all the detrimental stuff that each person does, like the use of materials in the long run. But hey, you're doing good. Like, you started off at the right place. You're slowly waking up, and you're slowly kind of getting sense of your actions will have a reaction, even though you can't see that reaction. It is happening. Like, so with sustainable living, it's becoming conscious of that and finding out how many things you can do and how many things you can benefit, until the point where you've gone past the point where you're benefiting yourself and you're benefiting the people around you. So if you start a garden and you start growing stuff and you start learning about nature, because a lot of people nowadays, I think, have lost that touch with nature and that understanding that there are so many, that all of our benefits and all the stuff we've reaped has come from nature. Like, nothing that we've gained has not, like, the resources has not come from nature. It's all been based in what we found and what we've discovered. And losing touch of that with industrialization and coming into the cities and getting used to the city lifestyle, where you can go to the shop, you pick out a full basket, you spend 15 quid, which is 2 hours, 3 hours work, and you go home and you've got lots of food. Until you're growing and kind of going, oh, these are potatoes, oh, these are carrots, ah, these are beans, strawberries. And then you start understanding that what you throw out will have a negative effect in nature in the long run, for us at least. Because it's another, I do get off piece. If I'm getting off piece, you know, say so in the comments. Like, you can chat to me. I'd be wonderful if I can have a chat back and forth if you've got any questions, sort of thing. Which is like, I say to people, like, if we survive the next 100 years, if we could quite possibly be traveling around the space in advanced space technology, our Earth would probably be in a better state than it is now. But I'm very skeptical that we will, due to the fact that we've done so much damage beforehand, and we're still not woken up enough. And it's like, oh, well, woke. Sorry, I just heard myself say woken up, and I just heard woke. What was I saying? Yes. So it'd be very interesting to see if we can be sustainable enough to survive for the next 100 years. Because I reckon if we do, we have a great shot at surviving for a much, much, much longer time. Just because of the point where we've gotten to with the damage that we've caused already, which is irreversible. To see if we're going to be competent enough to stop that there, or if we're just going to keep going forwards. Which is a big thing with sustainable living and with living, travelling and housing, because you got your housing which will cost you, you know, fuel, busy to keep stuff ticking over, because in our society you have to work to live, you have to live to work, to do other things, to party, to find other ways of living. Oh, I'm losing my thread very easily right now, sorry. So understanding where little things come in, they may not be the big impactors that we think they are. So plastic cups may not save the world, but they're a good indicator to people realizing that the world needs saving for humanity. The world doesn't need saving. Like, this is something I want to get off my chest. Is like, the world's going to carry on without us. I mean, even if it gets blown to start into dust, it's gonna just float around for a bit. You know, I mean, there's no major impact we're having on the earth. We're just having on ourselves and the nature that lives on earth, if that makes sense. So because nature lives on the earth and with the earth, and we're living with nature on the earth, so the biggest impact we're having is going to be on us, because we are the competent-ish creature that is cohabitating and surrounding the world and connecting to the world at this current stage in time. So it's like being on a microplanet and shooting a gun, missing, and then shooting yourself in the back. It's probably the best. It's just like, bam! Like, you may not see it, and it may not have reached you yet, but it will get there eventually, to where you're shot in the back, and you don't know what's going on because it's already been shot. It's already traveling at that in that place, sort of thing. Now you may step out of the way, or the bullet may change trajectory, so you might get a miss. But if you keep shooting that gun, eventually you're gonna be hitting yourself in the back quite consistently. Like if you kept shooting in all direction, you're eventually gonna hit yourself. And so it's something to take into account with sustainable living, housing, and being alive on this planet is how you're gonna leave it. Like how like if you're conscious of this, if you're questioning about this at the moment, I mean, that's wonderful. I'm really happy that there are people out there who are thinking and who are questioning and who are trying to improve the world for everyone's sake. It's not just I'm just trying to improve the world for myself. There are people out there who want to improve the world for everyone. There's also people out there who are quite happy with how things are at the moment. And to get on to our third topic, like I will be coming back and forth about other topics to discuss other materials, other ways of living. It's just I want to get through all three, and then I'll be jumping back. So with traveling, we don't think a lot about the effects of traveling, especially not in our day and age where we have such affordable pricing to go places. Like you can now travel, I think everywhere in the world apart from. You could go to the Antarctic. It'd be quite costly, but you could get there. But it's all affordable. Like you've got places like Ryanair, EasyJet, which are very, very cheap in comparison to what they should be, because they don't take into effect environmental damage, which is quite obvious. If you're getting a plane ticket for 25 quid to go to another country and come back whenever you want, they're still making a profit because they're a company. But they don't, but they're pumping out so much fuel, and they are effective. I will say that, like planes, flight is pretty effective because once you get to the altitude, you kind of just glide along the way down. But still, they're having environmental impact, and so are you, because you are partaking in that industry and you are partaking in what they are selling. So when you travel, you have to look at the ways. Like for me, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I ended up cycling. I cycled from Bristol to Folkestone to Paris, and that was my way of travelling, which was a really wonderful way of getting around because you're picking up speed. I slept out every night. You can sleep in places, but you see the world at a lot slower pace, and it's enjoyable. It's tough. But you find yourself getting to a groove where you get used to what you're doing. Whereas if you're driving in a car, you're flying somewhere, bam, bam, down, you're there for 10 days, bam, bam, back home, sort of thing, and you're just in that city. You're not traveling through. You're not seeing what else is around, because a country isn't just a city. It's not just a capital. It's what's going on in the countryside. It's what's going on in small little villages where you meet an Englishman who's been there for about 18 years. And who's going off to the restaurants, which is one of the things that we encountered. And we also encountered a fish farm, or was it? Yes, I think it was a fish farm, but it was proper big fish farm with herrings all the way around it, trying to get fish out. And hitchhiking's another way that I think is wonderful and is a dying art, because a lot of people in today's lifestyle have become a lot skeptical of people who are hitchhiking or who are trying to find other ways to travel. So walking, not so much cycling and walking, but hitchhiking is probably one of my favourite ways of travel, and I've done it quite a lot. I've done it in England, I've done it in Ireland when I was growing up to get places. I've done it in England quite a bit to get from Bristol to Coventry, where my grandmother lives, so I can go see her, because I don't really want to spend 50 quid on a train ticket to get me there and to get me back, because it's not 50 quid, it's like 70 quid. Because I do think that's overpriced. And finding ways to use public transport and to work with people who are there with a vehicle, which they're going to be driving anyway, and who give you a lift. So hitchhiking is a wonderful way, because you meet people, you communicate, you learn new things, you find other ways of getting around, and you see other ways, which is absolutely incredible. There's also stuff like Lift Share, which is a wonderful website where you can talk to people. Look, I'll give you some money for your petrol. I help you, you help me, you get me this place for a lot more affordable. And what you do is that car has then doubled has halved its impact because it's taking it's not halved its impact of what it's doing. It's still the same impact, but it's halved its impact per person, because instead of one person driving, you've got 2, 3, 4 people in the car. You know, it's going to be using a little bit more, but in the general sense, you are stopping 4 people from driving 4 cars in the same direction. Now you have one person with 3 passengers driving in the same direction. So you're taking more cars off the road. You're taking more fumes, emissions, and issues pertaining to that, which is, you know, I want to say digestion, but it's not digestion. It's when cars get piled up in the motorway and they get stuck, because you have the knock-on effect where there's a slow car up front, another brake, and you have a build-up. That's the word, build-up. So you're stopping those cars from maybe causing build-up, which uses more fuel. And that's the thing, like, once you start getting into it, there's so much knock-on effect of what you do. And I guess one of the biggest things that I do, which probably has the biggest knock-on, well, which has a knock-on effect that I know of, is dumpster diving. For people that don't know what dumpster diving is, it's going into supermarket bins, veg shop bins, you know, bakeries, and collecting the food from the bins which have been thrown out, which is still good, because a lot of places will have not a regulation, but they will have a best by sell date, which I'm sure you've all seen, you all know about, which is by this date you have to get rid of it. Which, interesting enough, I watched a YouTube series, Adam Knows Everything, you may have heard of it, which is all the best by sell date is the time where it is at its most enjoyable and at its peak freshness and tastiness, sort of thing. And then after that point it starts to deteriorate. But it's still edible, because you can buy it on that day and it's good for another 5, 6, 7 days. You know, if you buy milk on the 21st, you can still drink it on the 28th if you have it in the fridge. If you don't have it in the fridge, I wouldn't advise drinking it unless it's snowing outside. You've chucked it outside, which then, so all this food gets chucked out, because I believe it is about 40% of all food produced in the world will get put into the bin and then get sent off to landfill. And because it's been contaminated, because it has plastic in it, it has, you know, has other materials on it, it's not biodegrade by itself. It's with this other material which will take a lot longer to biodegrade. So we go back to what you buy is what you waste. So what you're buying and what's left over is what you chuck out. So you've got to be conscious of that. So when you go into these bins and you're finding 40 eggs, you're finding a whole bin full of frozen milk because the cafe can't sell it because it's been in the freezer and they don't want it anymore, and there's a whole bin and it's still frozen on a cold winter's night. There is vegetables, there is fruit, yogurts, good meat that's been thrown out that day. There are everything. It's everything that shop had has been thrown out. If they have an issue, so if one of the freezers break, they've got to chuck all the ice cream out. Ice cream's still frozen. You've got 40 litres of ice cream, and to that point where you're kind of going, and you look at it and you're going in and it's going, Jesus, there's 30 oranges in there. There's 50 eggs because one of those eggs in each of those boxes was broken. Or there's a couple of bags of flour because they've been cut open, the same with the sugar. And you look at it kind of going like, damn, son. Damn. I don't need to buy food forever. And again, it's not everyone's cup of tea. And I'm not saying it will be everyone's cup of tea, because it's quite gross. I'm not saying that. There will be stuff that is juicy and leaking on top, but again, you can just wash it. Like if you've got a lime, it's got a skin, you wash off, bam, you've got an edible lime. If you want to eat it, I wouldn't advise it unless you like bitter things. But that's one of the interesting things is once you start looking, you can't stop looking. Once you start seeing, you know, one-way containers being chucked away after use, or something else being done to them. Once you see pallets that are broken that will get sent off to the skip. Once you go to the dumpster yard and you see a woman throwing out a perfectly good microwave because they bought a new one. And this was a Kenwood microwave. And this is one time that we went to the dump to get rid of our yard's rubbish. So we recycle our cans, our cardboard. I believe we put into the bin our plastics, and we've got our rubbish, our general rubbish, which happens when you've got 20 people living on a yard. Hi there, how's it going? It's going all right. Is that working? Yeah. It works perfectly fine. We just got a new one. It's like 150 quid microwave. and this comes back to sustainable housing and sustainable living, is when it gets to the point where you're just chucking out stuff because you bought a new one. Still works fine. It's still good. You could have given it to someone. You could have stuck out you could have stuck out outside your house and gone, free, please take, works perfect. No, it's just straight to the bin. Stick in the skip, and there's no connection between something that's perfectly workable going to a skip for things that shouldn't be working. If I'm making sense to people, you gotta look at it like that. Like, you start waking up going like, hang on a minute, that's not making any sense to me. You've got all of this. This works fine, but you just get rid of it because you decide to put a new feel on the place. Give it to people. Give it to a charity. I'm sure they'll love it. They can carry on doing stuff. And I will say, charity shops are not as good as people think they are. They are good for going to buy stuff that's cheap. The unfortunate thing is, it's not bad. It's just, I feel this is bad on the half of charity shops. Is sometimes the price is too much to be affordable. So they market themselves as a charity shop where you should be able to go in, you spend a couple of quid, you come out with a lot of with some cool stuff. But in England particularly, like, it's very overpriced. There's so much cost pertaining to it, where you look at it and go like, that dress is 10 quid. I could go down to Primark and buy a similar one for a lot cheaper, which is very bad, because they've been given all this stuff for free. And at the end, when they've got all this inventory left, it might be ripped, it might be slightly damaged, stuff that's not been sold for like a month, 2 months, because there's always more stuff coming in, which is wonderful because there's so many people generosity giving. But they have to get rid of it, and that's a very simple reality of it. Is because they've priced themselves to the point where a lot of people who wanted to go there to buy stuff can't afford it. They have to get rid of stuff because they're pricing themselves at a point where probably not the best move I would make. Like, there's a wonderful charity shop which everything is £1. Everything, I think, pretty much is £1. So you go in there, you get stuff. And it's because of the volume of stuff they're getting, they can just keep sending out, and that generates so much money because there are people who afford it. So they go to this charity shop and they're able to afford something that's really nice, that makes them feel good, that makes them feel lovely inside, and it comes back into the sustainability of it to make it useful and make it a cycle again. Because if you can make it a cycle for as much as you're able to, then you're able to prolong the life and prolong the usefulness of that object. Good day. Part 2 of sustainable housing, living and travelling. For some reason, my internet went to absolute... it just went to the dog's teeth. I apologise about that again. As you can see, the internet is probably not one of the best things. I'm going to have to hopefully fix that at some stage. Now, going on what we were leaving was... so if you can keep stuff going in a circle, you can keep it repeating. And if something's broken, you can fix it. If you don't know how, you can learn. Because there are people out there who want to teach. But in the UK especially, there doesn't seem to be as much demand as what I would hope there to be for fixing stuff and keeping stuff going. There isn't the demand to keep a product which is older, to keep that moving forwards. And looking at other materials for sustainable housing, we have a lot of innovative. There we go. Oh, that's close enough. Projects coming along, especially one of my favourite is with hemp. With using hemp to keep the costs of concrete down, because it is material which isn't to the benefit of the world, is what I would value it as. I mean, using hemp, I think hemp reduces the 80% of the concrete used in a building. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better. It's compact. It's warm. It's a wonderful material. As probably one of the ones I would look forward to is hemp in production of paper, hemp in the production of building materials, in a lot of different areas of living, is looking at something which is usable in nature, which at the end of its life it can be dismantled and sent back to the earth to grow more products, and you're keeping that cycle a lot bigger in the world, sort of thing, because you're keeping it in nature and you're keeping it usable. I think one of my best friends gave me a really good point. Was in Western countries, particularly, we have food. We have so keeping with food, we have food shipped in from around the world because we want to enjoy things. We have mangoes from South America. We've got bananas. We've got cocoa. We've got fish being shipped in from all around the world. We've got beef. We've got meat. We've got vegetables. We've got bamboo shoots. All of this being brought in, and he said like all that stuff that's been brought in, and then being put on a dump site which isn't usable. People don't use it. People leave it behind. Bam! It's on a dump site. You're taking the natural resources from the earth that were there to grow that product away from that country of origin to our country to be put in a landfill, which all of that nutrients is there, but it's been contaminated with all of the other stuff, which makes it at this present moment in time useless. And you are wasting all of this nutrients from all this material. So like you got your banana skins, you've got your leftover potato bits because they're a bit mouldy. You've got your you've got your leftover foods and stuff like that, which get chucked in the bin with everything else. Which all of that stuff accumulates because you've got such a sizable population, and it just gets flushed in. It just gets chucked on the landfill. Bam, you're done with it. Good. Bam, it's gone. Happy days. But it's not usable then because it's in a landfill, because it's with all this other material that can't be differentiated around it. And the same comes when he said, "What is the use for humans? What do we do?" This is my best friend, by the way. What do humans do in our Earth? Like, what is the purpose of humans? And he said he figured out it was to poop, to eat food, to poop, because that poop is then used as fertilizer. And the same when we die, our bodies will be used as fertilizer to grow nature and to keep it going. That is all that humans do. Like everything else is, comfortable. Like we make ourselves as comfortable as possible. But after that, we eat, we drink, we poo, we pee. That simple. Which is such a wonderful thought, because at the end of it, once you think about everything else is substantiary, what we consume and what we give out is going to be the end of us, and that will be how we're finished. I think that's the majority of stuff I wanted to talk about today. How much time do I have left? It's 20 to 8, so we've got a little bit more time. If you have a question, a query, do let me know down in the comments. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't like the video, hit the thumbs down button and tell me why you didn't like the video, and tell me what I can be doing better in the future, because I want to bring more interesting subjects to people. I want to talk about stuff. I want to kind of go, does that make sense? Does it make sense to me? Why does it make sense to you guys? And the last thing I would say is look at things in a deeper sense. So the materials you get, the clothing you wear, what's it made of? If you chuck it out onto the compost heap, would it break down? Would it be usable for the worms, sort of thing? Like, how far are you willing to go to leave a better tomorrow? Is one of my points. How far are you willing to think and willing to go into the shops tomorrow and kind of go, I'm not going to get that because I'm going to have to deal with that waste. But yes, ladies, gentlemen, and humanoids of all ages, thank you for stopping by this evening. Please let me know what you'd like me to talk about and discuss about in the next video. We're back on Thursday, 6:30 PM. I'm sorry that I was late today. As I said, time got past me, sort of thing. But it was an absolute pleasure as always. And until next time, stay frosty, stay thinking, stay cool. Thank you very much, and goodbye.